Stop for a moment. Do not rush past this. Do not treat this as another video that simply appeared on your screen because of an algorithm. This did not find you by accident. God made sure this message crossed your path before something in your life moved beyond the point of easy correction. And I need you to hear that clearly. Not with fear, not with panic, but with the deep inner knowing that rises when your spirit recognizes a divine interruption. Because lately, something has been trying to get your attention. You may not have had the words for it. You may have tried to explain it away. You may have told yourself you were tired, emotional, overwhelmed, distracted, or just thinking too much. But deep down, you knew this was different. The repeated signs were different. The strange timing was different. The sudden heaviness in your chest was different. The way certain names, memories, numbers, songs, dreams, and conversations kept circling back around was different. You were not losing your mind. You were being alerted. You were not imagining a message where there was none. You were being pulled toward one, chosen one. This is the part you must not dismiss. When heaven wants to reach someone ordinary, it may whisper. But when heaven is trying to reach a watchman, a cycle breaker, a spiritual warrior who is standing close to a threshold, the interruption becomes louder. Not because God is cruel, not because God wants to frighten you, but because the noise around you has been too loud. The pressure has been too loud. The opinions have been too loud. The old wounds have been too loud. The enemy has been too loud. And when the noise rises, God does not abandon his own. He raises the signal. That is why you are here. That is why this message carries weight. That is why something in you paused when you saw it. Even before you understood the words, something in your spirit recognized the timing. Your mind may have questioned it. Your flesh may have wanted to scroll away. But your spirit knew. This is not coincidence. This is not random. This is not entertainment. This is a divine interruption placed in front of you because there is something God has been trying to show you, and this time he does not want you to miss it. You have missed enough signals because you were tired. You have ignored enough warnings because you did not want to seem dramatic. You have talked yourself out of enough discernment because you were afraid of being wrong. You have stayed silent when your spirit was screaming. You have stayed in rooms after your peace had already left. You have trusted people after your body had already warned you. You have delayed decisions after heaven had already given confirmation. And now God is drawing a line in the spirit, not to condemn you, to recover you, not to shame you, to wake you, not to punish you, to protect what is connected to your assignment. Because what you are carrying is too important for you to keep calling divine signals coincidence. Listen carefully. The enemy does not always attack by making something obvious look dangerous. Sometimes the enemy attacks by making something holy look ordinary. He makes the warning look like anxiety. He makes the instruction look like overthinking. He makes the dream look like imagination. He makes the closed door look like rejection. He makes the delay look like failure. He makes the divine interruption look like a random video. And if he can convince you to call God random, he can convince you to ignore the very message that was sent to protect you. That is why you must stay. Because before this message is over, you are going to understand why God made sure you found this in time. You are going to understand why your spirit has been restless. You are going to understand why the same thought keeps returning, no matter how many times you push it away. You are going to understand why your sleep has been interrupted. You are going to understand why your peace changes around certain people. You are going to understand why the things you used to tolerate now feel unbearable. You are going to understand why your old life suddenly feels too small for your spirit. And most of all, you are going to understand why God is not whispering quietly in this season. He is trying to get your attention before you sign another agreement with delay. Before you explain away another sign. Before you go back to a place he already pulled you out of. Before you accept a counterfeit comfort because you are tired of waiting for the real promise. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders drop. You do not have to force anything right now. You do not have to pretend you are stronger than you feel. You do not have to act like the last few months have been easy. God knows. He knows how many nights you looked normal on the outside, while your spirit was fighting a war no one saw. He knows how many times you encouraged other people, while your own heart felt empty. He knows how many times you prayed, and then wondered if your prayer even reached heaven. He knows how many times you woke up between 3 and 4 in the morning with that strange alertness, as if something unseen had touched your spirit and called your name. He knows the loneliness that followed you even in crowded rooms. He knows the exhaustion that sleep did not fix. He knows the grief you could not explain. He knows the moment you started asking whether you had somehow missed your timing. And this is why this message came, because you did not miss it. You are not too late. You are being reached in time, but you must stop treating the reaching like it is ordinary. Some of you have been seeing repeated numbers. 1111, 1112, 1113, 1114. Not once, not casually, but again and again, in moments when your heart was already asking questions. You saw them on clocks, receipts, message, screens, plates, random places that did not feel random, and you tried to laugh it off. You tried to say, maybe I am just noticing it because I am looking for it. But your spirit knew. Those numbers were not your destination. They were bells. They were not magic. They were not decoration. They were signals that your attention was being summoned. God was using the language you would notice, because He knew the language the noise around you had trained you to ignore. Some of you have felt a strange heaviness right before you were about to make a decision. You could not explain why your body reacted. Everyone else may have said it looked fine. The opportunity looked fine. The person sounded fine. The invitation seemed harmless. The door looked open. But something inside you tightened. Something in your spirit pulled back. And because you did not want to disappoint people, you almost ignored it. Chosen one, do not despise that inner witness. Your discernment does not always arrive like a loud voice from the sky. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet resistance in your chest. Sometimes it arrives as a sudden loss of peace. Sometimes it arrives as a pause you cannot explain. Sometimes it arrives as a strange exhaustion after being around someone whose words sound sweet but whose spirit feels heavy. And because you are used to being called too sensitive, you have been trained to mistrust the very sensitivity God gave you as protection. That changes now. This message is part of that change, because the thing that made you feel different is not a defect. It is part of your calling. You were never meant to move through life numb. You were never meant to be blind to spiritual atmospheres. You were never meant to agree with everything just because everyone else is comfortable. You were designed to sense what others miss. You were designed to hear the warning before the room changes. You were designed to notice the shift before the evidence appears. You were designed to feel the break in alignment before the situation collapses. That is not weakness. That is watchman anointing. But here is where it becomes serious. A watchman who does not trust the signal becomes vulnerable. A seer who keeps explaining away the vision becomes delayed. A cycle breaker who keeps choosing comfort over obedience stays tied to the cycle longer than necessary. And God is not allowing this message to meet you today so you can admire it and go back to sleep. He is meeting you so something can be corrected. Something in your attention, something in your obedience, something in the way you interpret timing, something in the way you handle the inner alarm. Because this season is not like the last one. In the last season, God allowed you to learn through delay. In this season, He is teaching you to respond faster. In the last season, He allowed you to see what happens when you override your discernment. In this season, He is restoring the confidence to trust it. In the last season, you kept asking for signs. In this season, He is asking you why you keep doubting the signs He already gave. Stay with me, because the reason you found this in time is connected to a pattern that has been repeating in your life. It is the pattern of almost, almost leaving, almost obeying, almost believing, almost cutting off the wrong connection, almost stepping into the right door, almost saying yes to what God showed you, almost saying no to what drained you, almost moving when the instruction first came, almost resting when your body begged you to stop, almost trusting that your spirit was not lying. That almost has cost you more than you have admitted. And God is interrupting the almost. Not because He is angry with you, because He loves you too much to let another season slip through your fingers while you call delay patience and fear wisdom. This is why the message feels urgent. Not because you are doomed, but because you are close. The enemy fights timing more than he fights desire. He knows you want healing. He knows you want clarity. He knows you want purpose. He knows you want peace. But if he cannot remove the promise, he will try to make you arrive late to your own obedience. He will make you tired at the exact moment you need to listen. He will make you distracted when God is speaking. He will bring back old guilt right when you need courage. He will make the wrong person text you when your spirit is finally getting free. He will make you crave comfort right when heaven is calling for separation. He will make you question the message because the delivery does not look dramatic enough. But God is wiser than the enemy. God knew how to place this in front of you. God knew the title would touch something in you. God knew your thumb would slow down. God knew a part of you would wonder, is this for me? Yes, this is for you. Not for the version of you that pretends everything is fine. For the version of you that has been silently asking, Father, why does it feel like something is about to happen? For the version of you that wakes up tired but spiritually alert. For the version of you that smiles in public and then sits in silence later because your spirit is carrying more than your face shows. For the version of you that has been asking why certain people suddenly feel unfamiliar. For the version of you that can feel a door closing before anyone announces it. For the version of you that knows God is shifting something, but does not know what to do with the pressure. This message is for that version, the hidden version, the watchman version, the version that senses before it sees, the version that knows before it can prove, the version that has been waiting for confirmation that it is not crazy to feel the way it feels. You are not crazy. You are being summoned into clarity, and clarity is not always comfortable at first. Sometimes clarity feels like grief because it shows you what you can no longer carry. Sometimes clarity feels like loneliness because it separates you from voices that once felt familiar. Sometimes clarity feels like pressure because it demands an answer from the part of you that has been hiding behind confusion. Sometimes clarity feels like danger because your old self knows that once you see the truth, you cannot peacefully return to the lie. That is why some of you have been avoiding silence, because in silence, you hear what you already know. You know which relationship has been draining the oil from your lamp. You know which habit keeps pulling your spirit downward. You know which apology you keep waiting for before you move forward. You know which door you keep staring at even though God already closed it. You know which instruction has been sitting in your heart for weeks. You know what God has been repeating. You may not have wanted to admit it, but you know. And this message did not come to add confusion. It came to remove the last excuse. Not harshly, not cruelly, but lovingly, like a father who stands in the doorway before his child walks into danger and says, "Not that way." Like a shepherd who leaves the 99 because one sheep is about to wander too far. Like a king who sends a messenger because the instruction is too important to be delayed by comfort. You are loved enough to be interrupted. Do you understand that? You are loved enough for God to disturb your scrolling. You are loved enough for heaven to repeat the sign. You are loved enough for your peace to leave when something is not aligned. You are loved enough for your sleep to be interrupted when your spirit needs to listen. You are loved enough for a message like this to appear before your next decision hardens into another cycle. Do not reduce that to coincidence. There are moments in life when God does not shout because he is far away. He raises his voice because he is close. He is close enough to stop you, close enough to warn you, close enough to redirect you, close enough to place something in front of your eyes when your heart is too tired to search for it. And some of you are tired, not ordinary tired, spirit tired, deep tired, tired from carrying emotional weight that was never yours, tired from being the strong one in rooms where nobody asked if you were okay, tired from discerning energy while others called you dramatic, tired from giving love to people who treated your softness like a resource they could spend, tired from praying for clarity while your mind felt wrapped in fog, tired from trying to make sense of why God would give you a great calling and then allow you to feel so delayed. But hear me, your tiredness is not proof that you are forgotten. Your tiredness is proof that you have been carrying without proper restoration. Even Elijah sat beneath a tree and asked for it to be over. Even David had to strengthen himself in the Lord when nobody else understood the weight. Even Moses needed the wilderness before the assignment could be carried with authority. The pattern is not new. God often reaches his chosen ones in the place where their strength has run out, because that is the place where pride finally gets quiet enough to hear instruction. So if you feel weak today, do not run. This may be the exact moment God can finally speak to the part of you that has been too busy surviving to listen. If your heart feels exposed, do not close it. This may be the exact moment God is touching the wound that has been distorting your discernment. If your mind feels unsettled, do not assume something is wrong. Sometimes the spirit becomes unsettled when truth is entering a room where lies have lived too long. You have been calling it confusion. God calls it awakening. You have been calling it delay. God calls it preparation. You have been calling it isolation. God calls it separation. You have been calling it coincidence. God calls it intervention. And before we go deeper, I need to plant one quiet seed here for the chosen one who has been asking why their inner signal feels weaker than it used to. There is a restoration tool that I will return to later in this message because it connects directly to focus, clarity, and the God-given ability to recognize what is trying to speak beneath the noise. It is called the Genius Song. It is a 7-minute audio built around gamma reactivation and brain entrainment, created for people who feel like their discernment, creativity, and mental sharpness have been buried under years of pressure. For now, do not turn this into a decision. Just let the name sit in your awareness. If your spirit already feels pulled toward it, the path is in the description and the pinned comment. But stay with this message first, because the tool will make more sense after you understand what has been blocking your clarity. This is not about chasing another thing. This is about recovering the signal God placed in you before the world trained you to doubt it. Now listen, the first thing God is exposing is the lie that you are hard to reach. You have been telling yourself, maybe I am not spiritual enough. Maybe I missed too much. Maybe I ignored God too many times. Maybe I am too distracted now. Maybe I ruined the timing. No, if God could reach Jonah in the belly of a fish, he can reach you through the noise of your life. If God could call Samuel while he was still learning to recognize the voice, he can call you even while you are still unsure. If God could redirect Saul on the road when he was moving in the wrong direction, he can interrupt your path before you walk farther into delay. The question is not whether God can reach you. The question is whether you will stop long enough to recognize that he already has. This is the mercy in the interruption. God did not wait until you had everything figured out. He did not wait until your prayer life looked perfect. He did not wait until you understood every sign. He did not wait until you felt worthy. He met you in the middle of ordinary movement, in the middle of scrolling, in the middle of mental noise, in the middle of a day that may have seemed normal on the outside. And he placed a message in front of you that touched the exact sentence your spirit has been carrying. This is not coincidence. This is divine timing, wearing ordinary clothes. And if you can receive that, something will shift in how you interpret the rest of your life. You will stop calling every interruption an inconvenience. You will stop calling every closed door rejection. You will stop calling every pause punishment. You will stop calling every strange sign imagination. You will begin to ask, Father, what are you protecting? Father, what are you showing? Father, what are you correcting? Father, what are you trying to make me hear before I move? That question will save you, because the chosen one who asks that question cannot be easily trapped. When you ask what God is showing, you stop reacting from fear. When you ask what God is protecting, you stop grieving every loss like it was theft. When you ask what God is correcting, you stop resisting the hand that is trying to realign you. And when you ask what God is saying through the timing, you stop worshipping coincidence. That is the doorway of this message. You are being trained to recognize timing as language. Not just words, not just dreams, not just signs. Timing. The person who left when they did. The door that closed when it did. The memory that returned when it did. The discomfort that rose when it did. The message that appeared when it did. The silence that became unbearable when it did. The exhaustion that forced you to stop when it did. The peace that vanished when it did. The peace that returned when you thought about obeying. All of it has been speaking, and God made sure you found this in time, because your next step requires a different level of interpretation. You cannot move into the next season interpreting spiritual language with an old wounded mind. You cannot carry a prophetic assignment while calling every inner warning anxiety. You cannot break generational cycles while staying loyal to the comfort of what your ancestors survived. You cannot become the answer to your family line while still bowing to the fear that trained them. You cannot keep asking God for open doors while refusing to walk away from doors He already marked as dangerous. This is why the urgency is holy, not frantic. It is the urgency of a rescue. It is the urgency of a shepherd calling before the cliff. It is the urgency of a father warning before the wrong road. It is the urgency of heaven saying, wake up, this matters. Something in your life is asking for your attention right now. It may be a decision. It may be a relationship. It may be a habit. It may be a place. It may be a business move. It may be a spiritual instruction. It may be a conversation you keep avoiding. It may be a door you keep touching, even though your peace leaves every time you reach for it. But whatever it is, God is not allowing you to walk into it asleep. That is why this message found you. Before you answer, before you agree, before you return, before you sign, before you surrender your peace, before you call that person back, before you step into that room, before you give your yes to something your spirit already rejected, before you delay what obedience has been asking from you, open your eyes in the spirit. The warning is not here to scare you. It is here to restore your authority. Because when a chosen one sees clearly, the enemy loses access. When a chosen one hears clearly, confusion loses its throne. When a chosen one obeys quickly, delay loses its grip. When a chosen one stops calling God coincidence, heaven can speak without having to repeat the same lesson through pain. That is where this message is taking you. First, God is waking your attention. Then He is going to reveal the pattern. Then He is going to show you what has been blocking your clarity. Then He is going to give you the language to break agreement with delay. And by the end of this message, you will not only know why you found this in time, you will know what must never be ignored again. So do not leave now. The next part will show you why the repeated signs were not random, why your spirit has felt pressed from every side, and why God allowed certain interruptions to happen before the door in front of you fully opened. Stay here, because the coincidence was the cover. The message beneath it is the warning, and the warning is mercy. Now understand this. The repeated signs were not random. They were not decorations around your life. They were not little coincidences that appeared because you happened to notice them. They were interruptions, holy interruptions, merciful interruptions, moments where God allowed something ordinary to carry a message extraordinary enough to make your spirit stop and listen. You thought it was just the time on the clock, but your spirit felt the timing. You thought it was just a song that came on at the right moment, but your spirit heard the sentence hidden inside it. You thought it was just a conversation that repeated what you had been praying about, but your spirit recognized the confirmation. You thought it was just a door closing, but your spirit felt protection. You thought it was just someone suddenly acting different, but your spirit felt exposure. You thought it was just your body reacting, but your spirit felt warning. Chosen one, God has been speaking through timing, and timing is one of the languages the enemy works hardest to make you ignore. Because if the enemy can convince you that timing means nothing, he can make you miss the door while you are still asking God for direction. If he can make you call the warning anxiety, he can keep you standing beside what God told you to leave. If he can make you call the confirmation coincidence, he can keep you begging for a sign that has already been given. If he can make you call divine interruption bad luck, he can make you resent the very protection that saved you. This is why you must become more careful with the way you interpret what has been happening around you. Not fearful, careful, not suspicious of everything, discerning, not paranoid, awake. There is a difference between fear and discernment. Fear makes every shadow look like an enemy. Discernment recognizes when something beautiful has the wrong spirit behind it. Fear makes you run from everything. Discernment teaches you where not to stand. Fear confuses you. Discernment clarifies you. Fear shouts. Discernment often arrives quietly, but it does not leave until you listen. And that quiet inner knowing has been visiting you again and again. You may have ignored it because it did not come with proof. You may have ignored it because people around you would not understand. You may have ignored it because the instruction felt inconvenient. You may have ignored it because obedience would have required you to disappoint someone. But God did not stop speaking just because you hesitated. He kept repeating. He repeated through dreams. He repeated through delays. He repeated through closed doors. He repeated through your body. He repeated through discomfort. He repeated through silence. He repeated through the strange way your peace kept leaving in one place and returning in another. And now he is repeating again through this message. Not because you are slow, because he is patient. Not because you are hopeless, because he still wants you aligned. Not because you failed beyond repair, because this next step matters enough for heaven to keep reaching. You need to hear this deep in your spirit. God does not interrupt what he has abandoned. He interrupts what he is still protecting. If God were finished with you, there would be no pull. If God were done speaking, there would be no conviction. If heaven had released the assignment from your life, there would be no holy discomfort when you tried to settle beneath your calling. The discomfort is proof that something in you still belongs to a higher instruction. The restlessness is proof that your spirit has not agreed to stay where your fear wants to settle. The tension is proof that your future is still calling your present self out of agreement with the old cycle. So stop interpreting discomfort as punishment. Sometimes discomfort is divine mercy, refusing to let you sleep in the wrong place. Sometimes unrest is God refusing to let your spirit become comfortable with what is slowly draining you. Sometimes the closed door is not rejection, it is a shield. Sometimes the delay is not denial, it is separation. Sometimes the silence is not absence. It is a test of whether you will trust what God already said when you do not receive new emotional reassurance every hour. You have been asking God to speak louder, but the real question is, what did you do with the last thing he already made clear? This is not to shame you. This is to make you honest. Because many chosen ones are not stuck because God has not spoken. They are stuck because God spoke in a way that required obedience, and obedience threatened the version of life they had already built around their wounds. God said, let go, but your fear said, what if nothing better comes? God said, be silent, but your pain wanted to explain. God said, wait, but your loneliness wanted immediate comfort. God said, move, but your trauma wanted familiar surroundings. God said, separate, but your loyalty to people who mishandled you made you feel guilty. God said rest, but your need to prove yourself called rest laziness. God said trust me, but your old disappointment told you to create a backup plan built from fear. And all of this created noise. Not noise outside you only, noise inside you. The kind of noise that makes divine instruction feel unclear. The kind of noise that makes you ask for 5 more confirmations because you are afraid to obey the first one. The kind of noise that makes you confuse peace with comfort and conviction with pressure. This is why God had to interrupt you. Because sometimes a chosen one does not need more information. They need the noise to break. They need one message to cut through the fog. They need one sentence that lands so deeply in the spirit that the mind can no longer pretend it did not hear. That is what is happening now. The fog is being challenged. The excuses are being touched. The false peace is being disturbed. The old interpretation is being corrected. And the part of you that keeps trying to call this coincidence is being confronted by the part of you that knows better. You know this was not random. You know it. You may not know every detail yet. You may not know what God is asking next. You may not know what this message will confirm by the end. But something in you knows that heaven has been arranging contact. Think about the last few weeks. Think about the moments that felt too strangely timed to dismiss. The person who suddenly mentioned the exact thing you had been praying about. The old memory that returned after years of silence. The dream that stayed with you longer than normal. The name that kept appearing. The warning feeling you had before something was exposed. The sudden tiredness that came when you were around someone who used to feel safe. The peace that came when you imagined walking away. The strange calm that followed one decision, even though that decision scared your flesh. The unexpected delay that frustrated you, only for you to later realize it protected you from something you did not see coming. Those were not empty events. They were messages. And the reason God is highlighting them now is because your next season requires you to stop separating your spiritual life from your daily life. God is not only speaking when you are on your knees. God is not only speaking when music is playing. God is not only speaking when you feel emotional. God is not only speaking when someone says, "Thus says the Lord." Sometimes God speaks through timing. Sometimes through restraint. Sometimes through a closed road. Sometimes through an unexpected pause. Sometimes through your body losing peace before your mind has evidence. Sometimes through a repeated phrase that will not leave you alone. Sometimes through a message that appears when you were not looking for it. This is how divine interruption works. It does not always announce itself. It reveals itself by the weight it leaves behind. And this message has weight because it is touching something you have been carrying privately. That is why your attention is still here. That is why, even if part of you wants to leave, another part of you wants to hear what comes next. That is not manipulation. That is recognition. Your spirit recognizes what your mind is still trying to debate. Now let me show you the pattern. Before a major shift, God often allows the ordinary to become uncomfortable. What used to satisfy you stops satisfying you. What used to entertain you starts draining you. What used to feel like home starts feeling like a waiting room you have overstayed. What used to impress you starts feeling empty. What used to make you afraid begins to lose authority. What used to silence you starts provoking a holy boldness. And you begin to wonder, what is wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. Your appetite is changing because your assignment is shifting. Your tolerance is changing because your identity is rising. Your peace is changing because your alignment is being refined. Your patience with certain cycles is running out because grace for that season is lifting. This is one of the clearest signs that what you called coincidence was actually divine timing. God often changes your inner appetite before he changes your outer environment. He makes the old thing taste strange before he removes you from it. He makes the wrong room feel heavy before he opens the right door. He makes the counterfeit connection feel draining before the divine connection can be recognized. He makes delay feel unbearable before obedience becomes attractive. He does this because he He is not only moving things around you, He is preparing you to no longer desire what once held you. And that preparation can feel confusing if you do not understand it. You may think you are becoming cold. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming consecrated. You may think you are losing interest in people. You are not losing love. You are losing agreement with energy that keeps pulling you out of peace. You may think you are being isolated. You are not being abandoned. You are being separated from noise that would make you misread the next instruction. You may think you are failing. You are not failing. You are being stripped of identities that were built around survival instead of purpose. Chosen one. This is where many people misunderstand divine timing. They expect God to open the door first and then change their appetite. But often God changes your appetite first, so you will recognize the door when it opens. He removes your hunger for the old before He introduces the new. He breaks your emotional dependence on the familiar before. He requires a step of faith. He allows certain conversations to feel empty, so you stop seeking validation from voices that cannot bless your next level. He allows certain plans to collapse, so you can stop idolizing a path He never chose for you. He allows silence to stretch, so you can hear what people-pleasing has been drowning out. And when these things happen close together, the mind calls it coincidence. But the spirit knows. Something is being arranged. Something is being corrected. Something is being exposed. Something is being closed. Something is being prepared. This is why you have felt like your life is in between worlds. Not fully where you were. Not fully where you are going. Not comfortable enough to stay. Not clear enough yet to run. You are in the corridor of divine transition. And in that corridor, God often speaks through interruption more than explanation. He interrupts your pattern. He interrupts your appetite. He interrupts your assumptions. He interrupts your attachments. He interrupts your schedule. He interrupts your false peace. He interrupts your scrolling. Because if He waited for you to feel ready, you would call delay wisdom and stay where your spirit is starving. This is mercy. You may not like how it feels, but it is mercy. The uncomfortable season that keeps you from marrying the wrong future is mercy. The unanswered text that saved you from returning to an old chain is mercy. The job that did not choose you because it would have buried your calling is mercy. The friend who exposed themselves before you, trusted them deeper, is mercy. The exhaustion that forced you to stop performing strength is mercy. The closed door that wounded your pride but protected your destiny is mercy. The message you almost skipped but could not ignore is mercy. God is not late. He is precise. And because He is precise, the timing of this message matters. You did not find it after everything was over. You found it while something can still be adjusted. You did not find it after the door closed forever. You found it while your obedience still carries power. You did not find it after you ruined the promise. You found it while heaven is still redirecting your steps. So reject the lie that says, I always understand too late. Reject the lie that says, I always miss what God is doing. Reject the lie that says, I am not spiritual enough to hear Him. Reject the lie that says, everyone else gets clarity except me. That lie was planted to make you passive. And passivity is dangerous in a transition season. Because when God is interrupting you, neutrality is not always neutral. Sometimes not choosing is still choosing delay. Sometimes avoiding the instruction is still agreeing with fear. Sometimes waiting for perfect certainty is just a more spiritual sounding way of resisting obedience. That is why this message is pressing on your spirit. It is not here to flatter you. It is here to wake the part of you that already knows what God has been saying. You may want another sign, but God may be saying, I am making you remember the signs you already buried. You may want another confirmation, but God may be saying, I am showing you why you were afraid to accept the last confirmation. You may want a new word, but God may be saying, obey the word that has been sitting in your spirit since the last season. This is the reframe. You are not waiting because heaven is silent. Heaven has been patient while you learn to trust the language. And the language has been everywhere. In the delay, in the discomfort, in the dream, in the closed door, in the sudden loss of peace, in the strange pull towards separation, in the exhaustion that told you to stop carrying people who never intended to heal, in the divine discomfort you felt every time you tried to make the old thing fit your new spirit. The signs were not random, they were consistent. And consistency is one of the ways God breaks denial. He will allow the same message to appear through different doors until your spirit cannot keep pretending it does not understand. A dream says it, then a conversation says it, then a scripture confirms it, then your body reacts to it, then a door closes around it, then a message like this names it. Not because God enjoys repetition, because your fear has been bargaining with the truth. And when fear bargains with truth, God often repeats himself through mercy before correction arrives through consequence. Hear that again. God repeats through mercy before correction arrives through consequence. The repetition you are seeing is not meaningless. It is grace. Grace is giving you time to respond before the lesson becomes heavier. Grace is letting you feel the wrongness before you are trapped by it. Grace is making the counterfeit uncomfortable before you build a future around it. Grace is allowing your spirit to feel unsettled before your life has to be shaken. So when God repeats a warning, do not resent the interruption. Honor it. When God removes your peace, do not fight to recover false comfort. Ask what peace is protecting you from. When God closes a door, do not keep trying to pry it open just because your pride hates the word no. Ask what was behind the door that love refused to let you enter. When God makes a relationship heavy, do not immediately blame yourself for being too sensitive. Ask whether your sensitivity is revealing what your attachment is trying to hide. When God sends a message at the exact moment you are about to make a decision, do not reduce it to content. Ask why heaven chose that moment. Chosen one. Heaven is intentional. God does not waste timing. The Father is not careless with placement. And what keeps happening around you is too layered to be dismissed. The enemy knows this. That is why he works so hard to cover divine patterns with ordinary explanations. He does not need you to become evil. He only needs you to become dismissive. He does not need you to hate God. He only needs you to doubt the way God speaks to you. He does not need you to reject your calling out loud. He only needs you to keep postponing the version of you that would carry it. He does not need you to walk into destruction quickly. He only needs you to stay confused long enough to miss the moment of exit. This is why delay can feel so spiritual. It often disguises itself as caution. It says, wait until you are more healed. Wait until they understand. Wait until you have no fear. Wait until the sign is louder. Wait until it makes sense to everyone. Wait until you can explain it perfectly. But obedience rarely feels perfect at the beginning. Obedience often feels like trembling steps taken with a clear spirit and an uncertain mind. Obedience often feels like peace underneath fear. Obedience often feels like grief and relief at the same time. Obedience often feels like leaving something you love because you love God more. And this is the part the enemy hates. Once you learn the difference between fear and conviction, he loses one of his strongest tools. Because fear feels frantic. Conviction feels weighty. Fear tries to rush you into panic. Conviction calls you into alignment. Fear makes you obsess. Conviction makes you aware. Fear drains your strength. Conviction strengthens your spirit even when the instruction is hard. Fear sounds like punishment. Conviction carries mercy. What you have been feeling is not all fear. Much of it has been conviction, holy conviction, a sacred pressure to stop living beneath what God has already revealed, a pressure to stop pretending that the sign was not clear, a pressure to stop calling your exhaustion normal, a pressure to stop confusing loyalty with bondage, a pressure to stop making excuses for what consistently steals your peace, a pressure to stop letting old pain interpret new instructions. That pressure is not here to crush you. It is here to bring you back into agreement with your assignment. Because you are not just anyone. You are a chosen one. And I do not say that as a slogan. I say it as a responsibility. Chosen means separated for purpose. Chosen means your life cannot be measured only by comfort. Chosen means your timing matters. Chosen means your attention is valuable. Chosen means your yes carries weight. Chosen means your no can break a chain. Chosen means what you tolerate can affect more than you. Chosen means your delay can keep more than you waiting. Chosen means your obedience can open doors for people attached to your future. This is why God is not letting you sleep through this. This is why the interruption feels personal. This is why the message is pressing so deeply. Because the next level of your life cannot be entered with the old habit of dismissing every sign that asks something from you. God is not just trying to comfort you. He is trying to calibrate you. He is adjusting how you listen, how you notice, how you respond, how you separate, how you wait, how you move, how you handle discomfort, how you identify counterfeit peace, how you recognize a divine warning before circumstances become obvious. That calibration is part of your protection. A miscalibrated chosen one can walk past open doors and stand outside closed ones. A miscalibrated chosen one can mistake a test for punishment. A miscalibrated chosen one can confuse chemistry with covenant. A miscalibrated chosen one can stay loyal to a room God already left. A miscalibrated chosen one can ask God for rescue while resisting the rescue because it does not arrive in the form they expected. But God is recalibrating you now. He is teaching you to stop worshipping proof. He is teaching you to honor the inner witness. He is teaching you that peace is evidence. He is teaching you that repeated interruption is mercy. He is teaching you that silence can be instruction. He is teaching you that not every delay is demonic. But some delays continue because you refuse to move when the instruction is clear. And yes, that may touch something tender in you. Let it. Do not harden when truth touches the wound. The wound is where the enemy has been editing your interpretation. The wound is where fear learned to sound like wisdom. The wound is where rejection taught you to cling to what God told you to release. The wound is where disappointment taught you to ask for signs and then mistrust them when they came. The wound is where people-pleasing taught you to choose their comfort over your obedience. The wound is where survival taught you to stay small, because being visible once cost you something. But the wound does not get to be your prophet. Pain does not get to interpret God for you anymore. Rejection does not get to decide whether this message is real. Fear does not get to vote on your obedience. Old disappointment does not get to rename divine timing coincidence. Not anymore. God is restoring the authority of your spirit over the noise of your wounds. And that restoration begins when you admit that what has been happening is not random. Say it quietly where you are. This was not random, not as a performance, as agreement. This was not random. The timing was not random. The signs were not random. The unrest was not random. The dreams were not random. The closed doors were not random. The repeated message was not random. God has been reaching me. Let that agreement settle, because agreement is powerful. The moment you agree with truth, the lie loses some of its strength. The moment you stop defending confusion, clarity has room to enter. The moment you stop calling God coincidence, the ordinary world starts becoming readable again. And that is what the enemy fears. He fears a chosen one who can read the moment. He fears a chosen one who can sense the shift. He fears a chosen one who can recognize the counterfeit before attachment forms. He fears a chosen one who can leave before the trap closes. He fears a chosen one who can obey before fear builds a courtroom. He fears a chosen one who no longer needs everyone to understand the instruction before they honor it. Because once your discernment is restored, the old cycles lose their hiding place. That person can no longer manipulate your compassion as easily. That room can no longer drain you while you call it loyalty. That delay can no longer wear the mask of patience. That false door can no longer impress you just because it looks shiny. That old identity can no longer speak louder than God. This is why the last season has been so intense. You thought you were only being tested, but you were also being trained. Trained to notice, trained to pause, trained to discern, trained to recognize when peace leaves, trained to stop apologizing for spiritual sensitivity, trained to separate sympathy from assignment, trained to understand that not every person who needs you is sent to walk with you, trained to recognize that some interruptions are angels of mercy dressed like inconvenience. You are being trained in timing, and timing is about to matter more than ever, because the next door will not require endless debate. It will require recognition. The next instruction will not come to negotiate with your fear. It will come to call your spirit higher. The next separation will not wait until everyone approves. It will ask whether God's voice is enough. The next opportunity will not look exactly like the picture you had in your mind. It will carry the peace your spirit recognizes. And if you are still addicted to obvious signs, you may miss subtle glory. So God is training you now, with small interruptions, with repeated confirmations, with holy discomfort, with messages that appear before decisions, with inner checks that do not leave, with peace that returns only when you imagine obedience. This is not random, it is preparation. But here is what most people miss. Preparation does not always feel like being strengthened. Sometimes preparation feels like being stripped. Stripped of the need to explain yourself. Stripped of emotional dependence. Stripped of false urgency. Stripped of old environments. Stripped of the craving to be understood by people assigned to misunderstand you. Stripped of your habit of calling chaos passion. Stripped of your habit of calling survival strength. Stripped of your habit of calling spiritual numbness peace. And when God strips those things, the old self panics. It says, "What is happening to me? Why do I feel different? Why can I not enjoy what I used to enjoy? Why do certain people feel heavy now? Why am I suddenly uninterested in conversations that once entertained me? Why do I feel pulled away? Why does my spirit keep saying not there, not that, not them, not again?" Because God is changing what you can tolerate. And when God changes what you can tolerate, He is preparing to change where He can trust you. There are blessings that cannot safely enter your life while you remain attached to environments that would corrupt them. There are doors that cannot open while your hands are full of old agreements. There are assignments that cannot be released while you keep letting your attention leak into distractions designed to exhaust your spirit. There are relationships that cannot align while you keep giving covenant-level access to people who only carry seasonal permission. So the interruptions came first. The discomfort came first. The repeated signs came first. The strange feeling came first. The message came first. Because God corrects alignment before He releases acceleration. He prepares the vessel before He pours. He clears the room before He enters with weight. He exposes the counterfeit before He reveals the covenant. He breaks the false attachment before He strengthens the true assignment. This is why you cannot ignore this. Because the thing God is doing is not only about what is coming to you. It is about what must leave you before it arrives. You asked for breakthrough. God is answering by showing you what has been blocking your capacity to hold it. You asked for peace. God is answering by exposing what keeps stealing it. You asked for clarity. God is answering by confronting the places where you prefer comfort over truth. You asked for a sign. God is answering by showing you that the sign has already been speaking through everything you kept dismissing. This is love. It may not feel soft, but it is love. Real love does not always pat you on the back while you walk toward danger. Sometimes love raises its voice. Sometimes love interrupts. Sometimes love closes the door. Sometimes love removes the person. Sometimes love makes the old room unbearable. Sometimes love allows your spirit to become restless, so you stop calling bondage familiar. And if the thumbnail said God is screaming, understand this carefully. God is not screaming because he is out of control. He is not screaming because he is angry like man is angry. He is raising the volume because your life has been surrounded by competing voices. The voice of fear, the voice of trauma, the voice of family expectation, the voice of religious guilt, the voice of old rejection, the voice of people who benefit from your confusion, the voice of your own exhaustion, the voice of delay. And above all of them, God is making sure his instruction becomes impossible to ignore. Not to terrify you, to rescue your attention, because whatever owns your attention in a transition season can influence your direction. If fear owns your attention, fear will interpret the signs. If wounds own your attention, wounds will distort the warning. If people own your attention, people will negotiate your obedience. If the enemy owns your attention, the enemy will rename the exit as loss. But when God owns your attention, clarity returns, peace returns, order returns, discernment returns, the ability to say no returns, the courage to say yes returns, the strength to walk without applause returns, the authority to leave what drains you returns, the confidence to trust divine timing returns. That is what is happening. This message is not only informing you, it is reclaiming your attention. And once your attention is reclaimed, your interpretation changes. And once your interpretation changes, your choices change. And once your choices change, the cycle begins to break. That is why the enemy fought so hard to make you distracted. Have you noticed how tired you become right when you need to focus? How sleepy you feel when a message starts touching truth? How suddenly you remember other tasks when God starts dealing with your heart? How your phone becomes loud when your spirit is about to receive clarity? How someone reaches out right when you are close to making a decision? How the old temptation returns right when separation begins to feel possible? That is not always coincidence either. Distraction often increases near instruction. Noise often rises near breakthrough. Confusion often intensifies near clarity. The enemy does not waste energy where nothing is about to happen. So, if you have felt unusually attacked in your focus, unusually foggy in your mind, unusually pulled in many directions, do not automatically conclude that you are failing. Sometimes resistance is evidence that you are approaching something the enemy does not want you to recognize. But resistance is not greater than God. The enemy can create noise, but he cannot cancel instruction that God has determined to deliver. He can distract, but he cannot possess your attention unless you keep handing it over. He can suggest confusion, but he cannot force you to agree with it. He can tempt you to delay, but he cannot make obedience impossible. He can make the holy look ordinary, but he cannot stop your spirit from recognizing God when you choose to listen. And today, you are choosing to listen. That matters. Do not underestimate the power of staying with a message when your flesh wanted to drift. Do not underestimate the spiritual significance of pausing when you normally would have scrolled. Do not underestimate what happens when a chosen one says, "God, I am paying attention now." That sentence changes the atmosphere around your next decision. So say it softly. God, I am paying attention now. Not casually. Say it as agreement. God, I am paying attention now. Let heaven hear that your attention is returning. Let the enemy hear that distraction is losing its grip. Let your own nervous system hear that you are no longer running from the truth. God, I am paying attention now. This is the beginning of alignment. Not because everything is solved in one sentence, but because attention is the doorway. Before obedience, there is attention. Before clarity, there is attention. Before discernment, there is attention. Before breakthrough, there is attention. Before separation, there is attention. Before divine instruction can be followed, it must first be heard. And many of you are not lacking instruction. You are lacking undistracted attention. This is why God met you here, because he knew your attention had been scattered across too many concerns, too many people, too many fears, too many tabs open in your mind, Too many unfinished emotional conversations, too many what-ifs, too many memories, too many fake responsibilities, too many battles that were never yours to fight. And when attention scatters, discernment blurs. When discernment blurs, timing becomes confusing. When timing becomes confusing, obedience gets delayed. When obedience gets delayed, cycles repeat. This is the chain God is breaking. Attention returns. Discernment sharpens. Timing becomes readable. Obedience becomes possible. Cycles begin to break. That is the order. And this second part of the message is here to reframe everything you thought was random as part of a divine recovery process. God is recovering your attention. God is recovering your discernment. God is recovering your trust in His timing. God is recovering your ability to sense what is safe and what is sent to drain you. God is recovering your courage to obey before the full picture appears. And because He is recovering these things, do not be surprised if certain areas of your life suddenly start revealing themselves. Do not be surprised if a person shows you who they really are. Do not be surprised if an opportunity loses its shine. Do not be surprised if a door you wanted begins to feel heavy. Do not be surprised if you feel pulled towards silence. Do not be surprised if God asks you to stop explaining yourself. Do not be surprised if the thing you thought you needed starts feeling optional. Do not be surprised if old cravings lose power. Do not be surprised if your spirit begins to reject what your wounds used to choose. This is not instability. This is realignment. And realignment often shakes what was built on compromise. That is why you must not panic when things feel different. Different is not always danger. Sometimes different is the evidence that the old spell is breaking. Different is what freedom feels like before your life catches up to your spirit. Different is what healing feels like when your nervous system stops calling chaos home. Different is what obedience feels like when fear no longer gets the final word. Different is what divine timing feels like when you are no longer resisting it. You are not falling apart. You are being repositioned. You are not losing yourself. You are losing the version of you that learned to survive by ignoring God's quiet warnings. You are not becoming difficult. You are becoming less available to manipulation. You are not becoming distant. You are becoming present to God. You are not becoming strange. You are becoming honest. And honesty is going to save your next season, because you cannot walk into divine timing while lying to yourself about what you already know. You cannot keep pretending you do not see the pattern. You cannot keep pretending that peace did not leave. You cannot keep pretending that God has not repeated the same instruction through different circumstances. You cannot keep pretending that your spirit is not tired of false agreement. You cannot keep pretending that coincidence explains what only God could arrange. The pretending is ending, not by force, by revelation. Light is entering the places where denial has been sitting. And once light enters, you have a choice. You can close your eyes and ask for another sign, or you can honor the light you have already been given. This is the crossroads. Not dramatic on the outside, but massive in the spirit. A crossroads where your old self says, maybe, later, and your spirit says, now. A crossroads where fear says, what if you are wrong? And discernment says, what if God has been right all along? A crossroads where delay says, wait until it is easier. And obedience says, the ease you are waiting for may come after the step, not before it. This is why you found this in time, because you are standing closer to a choice than you realize. You may think this is just preparation for some faraway future, but in the spirit, choices are already forming. Your attention is being tested. Your interpretation is being tested. Your willingness to honor the signal is being tested. Your agreement with delay is being tested. And the enemy hopes you will respond the way you used to respond, by doubting, by postponing, by overthinking, by asking 10 people, by returning to the same pattern, by calling conviction anxiety, by calling mercy interruption. by calling divine timing coincidence. But you are not that person anymore. You are the one God is waking. You are the one heaven is interrupting. You are the one whose discernment is being restored. You are the one who is learning the difference between noise and warning. You are the one who will not miss this message and then ask later why the cycle repeated. No, not this time. This time you will notice. This time you will pause. This time you will ask God before you answer people. This time you will not betray your peace to keep someone else comfortable. This time you will not ignore the heaviness in your spirit. This time you will not confuse delay with wisdom. This time you will not let fear rename obedience as danger. This time you will not call God coincidence. And before we move into the next part, understand the deeper truth. The signs around you were never the final revelation. They were the alarm. They were designed to wake your attention so God could deal with the real issue beneath them. Because the greatest danger was not that you lacked signs. The greatest danger was that your inner world had become so noisy that even when the signs came, you did not trust what they meant. That is where we must go next. Not just what God has been showing around you, but what has been blocking clarity inside you. The mental fog, the spiritual exhaustion, the delayed obedience, the fear disguised as caution, the old wound that keeps interrupting the voice of God. Stay with me now, because in the next part, we are going deeper than signs. We are going into the noise beneath the signs. And once you see what has been blocking your clarity, you will understand why this message had to find you before it was too late. Now we are going beneath the signs. Because signs can wake your attention, but they cannot obey for you. Warnings can interrupt your pattern, but they cannot choose your response. A message can find you in time, but it cannot make you stop negotiating with the very thing God already revealed. And this is where many chosen ones get stuck. Not because God has not spoken, not because heaven has forgotten them, not because their calling disappeared, but because the inner atmosphere became too crowded to recognize the instruction clearly. The sign was there, the timing was there, the discomfort was there, the confirmation was there. But fear stood beside it and said, "Are you sure?" Trauma stood beside it and said, "What if you are abandoned again?" People-pleasing stood beside it and said, "What will they think?" Old disappointment stood beside it and said, "Do not trust this too quickly." Exhaustion stood beside it and said, "Not today." And mental fog stood over all of it like a cloud, making a clear message feel complicated. Chosen one, this is what God is exposing now. The greatest attack against your next season has not only been outside you, it has been in the noise that forms inside you right before obedience. That is why the enemy does not need to steal every sign. He only needs to make you mistrust your interpretation of the sign. He only needs to make you so mentally tired that you delay what you already know. He only needs to make your nervous system so overloaded that you call peace boring and chaos familiar. He only needs to make you ask for one more confirmation until the window that required movement begins to close. This is not said to frighten you. It is said to free you, because once you understand the noise, you stop bowing to it. Once you recognize the fog, you stop mistaking it for God's silence. Once you see how fear dresses itself as wisdom, you stop letting it sit on the throne of your decisions. And that is why this part matters. God is not only showing you that this message was not coincidence. He is showing you why you almost missed it. He is showing you why you have almost missed many things. He is showing you why certain instructions kept returning but never became action. The pattern is not that you never hear. The pattern is that you hear, then noise arrives. You hear, then the mind begins building arguments. You hear, then the old wound begins asking for proof. You hear, then the wrong person's opinion becomes louder than the inner witness. You hear, then comfort asks you to wait. You hear, then fear says, maybe this is not God. And because you love God, that question stops you. Maybe this is not God. Maybe I am being dramatic. Maybe I am too emotional. Maybe I am making this bigger than it is. Maybe I should wait until I feel completely certain. But listen carefully. Complete certainty is not always faith. Sometimes the demand for complete certainty is fear pretending to be spiritual maturity. Sometimes your desire to have every outcome explained before you obey is not discernment. It is control wearing religious clothing. Faith does not mean you move without God. Faith means you move with the amount of light God has given, even when the entire road has not been shown. When God called Abraham, He did not hand him every map and every detail. He gave direction, and Abraham had to leave what was familiar. When God called Moses, He did not remove every insecurity first. Moses still had questions, still had fear, still had reasons why he felt unqualified. But the assignment did not wait for Moses to feel impressive. The presence of God became the qualification. When Samuel first heard the voice, he did not recognize it immediately. He had to learn the difference between a human voice and a divine call. He had to be trained to respond. When Elijah was exhausted, God did not shame him for being tired. God fed him, let him rest, and then spoke again. When David was anointed, he did not move instantly into the palace. He went back to the fields, then into battles, then into caves, then into waiting. But none of those hidden places canceled the oil on his life. Do you see the pattern? God's chosen ones often receive instruction before they feel ready. They receive signs before the full explanation. They receive confirmation before the environment changes. They receive calling while still standing in a place that contradicts the calling. And the enemy uses that contradiction to create noise. He says, if this were God, why are you still tired? If this were God, why are you still waiting? If this were God, why did it hurt? If this were God, why do you feel afraid? If this were God, why do other people not understand? But none of those questions prove God is absent. They only prove you are in the tension between revelation and manifestation. And that tension is where discernment must mature. The immature self needs everything to feel easy before it believes. The wounded self needs everyone to agree before it moves. The fearful self needs a guarantee before it obeys. But the awakened chosen one learns to recognize the voice of God even when circumstances are still noisy. That is the training, not just to receive signs, to interpret them while pressure is present, not just to feel confirmation, to protect that confirmation from the voices that come afterward, not just to say, God spoke, to obey when the old life starts negotiating. Because after God gives instruction, something usually tests it. After clarity comes distraction. After peace comes a challenge. After confirmation comes a reason to doubt. After you decide to leave, the old place may suddenly act kinder. After you decide to rest, guilt may accuse you. After you decide to obey, fear may show you every possible thing that could go wrong. After you decide to stop explaining yourself, someone may demand an explanation. That does not mean the instruction was false. It means the instruction is being tested. And what is being tested is not God's faithfulness. It is your agreement. Will you agree with the voice that brought peace? Or will you agree with the noise that came after it? This is why your inner world matters. A cluttered spirit makes divine timing feel chaotic. An exhausted mind turns every instruction into a mountain. An unhealed wound demands proof from God that attachment never demanded from the people who harmed you. That is why you have to be honest about the fog. Some of you have been calling it normal, but it is not normal to feel so mentally crowded that prayer feels like work. It is not normal to wake up tired after sleeping and still feel like your spirit has been wrestling all night. It is not normal to sit in silence and immediately feel attacked by 10 unfinished fears. It is not normal to know what you need to do and still feel unable to move because your mind keeps spinning. It is not normal to feel your clarity disappear every time you are around certain people. It is not normal to be pulled in so many emotional directions that your own voice becomes hard to hear. This is not who you truly are. This is what pressure has built around you. Beneath that pressure, there is still a clear spirit. Beneath that fog, there is still discernment. Beneath that exhaustion, there is still an anointing that knows when something is wrong. Beneath the noise, there is still the God-given signal. And God is not trying to create something from nothing in you. He is restoring what pressure buried. He is recovering what trauma muted. He is clearing what constant survival cluttered. He is teaching you that your spirit was never the problem. The interference was the problem. You were born with a capacity to sense, to perceive, to notice, to connect dots, to feel atmosphere, to recognize when something is off before evidence arrives. As a child, some of you had this strongly. You knew things without being told. You felt rooms before anyone explained them. You could sense tension between adults even when they smiled. You noticed patterns quickly. You learned fast. You dreamed vividly. You felt deeply. You saw beauty in small things. You carried a kind of inner brightness that the world slowly trained you to hide. Then life happened. Pressure happened. School systems happened. Family expectations happened. Disappointment happened. Rejection happened. Survival happened. People called you too sensitive. They called you dramatic. They told you to stop thinking so much. They told you to be realistic. They told you to toughen up. And little by little, the gift got covered. Not destroyed, covered. The signal did not vanish. It was buried under noise. And now when God speaks, part of you still hears. But another part of you has been trained to doubt the hearing. That is the war. Not whether you are chosen. You are. Not whether God can speak. He can. Not whether the signs are real. They have been real. The war is whether you will keep letting the noise overrule the signal. This is why delayed obedience has been so painful. Because delayed obedience creates a quiet suffering that is hard to explain. You are not fully rebelling, but you are not fully surrendered. You are not saying no, but you are not moving. You are not denying God, but you are negotiating with timing. And that middle place becomes exhausting. It drains you because your spirit knows where alignment is, but your behavior keeps circling around it. It creates heaviness because one part of you is trying to go forward while another part keeps holding the old agreement. It makes prayer feel repetitive because you keep asking God to confirm what He is waiting for you to obey. And eventually you start feeling stuck, not because the door is absent, but because your inner yes has not become an outer step. Chosen one, God is not condemning you for this. He is showing it to you so the cycle can break. Because there is a difference between waiting on God and hiding behind delay. Waiting on God carries peace, even when it is hard. Hiding behind delay carries anxiety, confusion, and a strange sense that you are avoiding something. Waiting on God strengthens your spirit. Hiding behind delay weakens your confidence. Waiting on God keeps you open. Hiding behind delay makes you numb. Waiting on God is obedience. Hiding behind delay is fear, that learned spiritual language. And for many of you, the delay has worn the mask of wisdom for too long. It has told you, just wait until the pain is gone. Just wait until they understand. Just wait until you have more money. Just wait until you are more confident. Just wait until you are less afraid. Just wait until the sign is undeniable. But what if God has already given enough light for the next step? Not the whole staircase, the next step. What if the reason the whole path is not shown is because the next step is the test? What if clarity comes after obedience, not before? What if the fog lifts when you move in the direction peace already pointed? What if your mind has been asking for a level of certainty that would remove the need for trust? This is what God is addressing, not your value, your agreement with fear, not your worthiness, your habit of letting old pain interpret new instruction, not your calling, your tendency to delay the call until you feel emotionally safe. But chosen one, some assignments are not carried by the version of you that feels safe. They are carried by the version of you that trusts God while trembling. They are carried by the version of you that says, I do not understand everything, but I recognize the peace. They are carried by the version of you that says, My fear is loud, but God has already spoken. They are carried by the version of you that says, I cannot keep calling disobedience caution. They are carried by the version of you that says, if God interrupted me this many times, I must stop pretending I do not know. This is not about rushing. Do not misunderstand. God is not asking you to move in panic. Panic is not obedience. Panic is fear in motion. Obedience is peace in motion. There is a difference. Panic says, I must do something now, or I will be destroyed. Obedience says, God has made the next step clear, and I will honor it. Panic comes from terror. Obedience comes from trust. Panic is frantic. Obedience can be quiet. Panic is unstable. Obedience may tremble, but beneath the trembling, it carries peace. That is the peace you must learn to recognize. Not comfort, peace. Comfort says, stay where nothing challenges you. Peace says, move where God is leading, even if your flesh feels afraid. Comfort protects the old self. Peace protects the assignment. Comfort asks, how do I avoid pain? Peace asks, where is God? Comfort can keep you in bondage. Peace will walk you through discomfort into freedom. And this is why so many of your signs have been connected to peace leaving or peace returning. God has been teaching you through peace. When peace leaves every time you enter a certain conversation, pay attention. When peace leaves every time you imagine returning to an old cycle, pay attention. When peace leaves every time you try to force a door, pay attention. When peace returns as soon as you imagine releasing something, pay attention. When peace returns as soon as you stop explaining yourself, pay attention. When peace returns as soon as you decide to obey quietly, pay attention. Peace is not weak. Peace is one of the ways God protects your direction. But noise imitates peace. That is where you must be careful. Sometimes numbness pretends to be peace. Sometimes avoidance pretends to be peace. Sometimes emotional shutdown pretends to be peace. Sometimes getting what your flesh wanted creates temporary relief and calls itself peace. But true peace does not require you to betray your spirit. True peace does not make you smaller. True peace does not silence conviction. True peace does not keep you bonded to what drains you. True peace may be quiet, but it carries strength. True peace may ask you to grieve, but it does not ask you to lie. True peace may lead you away from familiar people, but it does not lead you away from God. This is the discernment God is restoring. And yes, it takes courage. Because once discernment returns, excuses become harder to hold. Once discernment returns, you cannot pretend every room is safe. Once discernment returns, you cannot keep confusing access with love. Once discernment returns, you cannot keep calling every open door a blessing. Once discernment returns, you cannot keep calling every emotional pull a divine connection. Once discernment returns, you begin to see the difference between what needs your compassion and what was sent to consume your oil. That is a painful but holy difference. Because chosen ones often confuse compassion with assignment. You feel deeply, so you assume every hurting person is yours to rescue. You can see potential, so you assume you are called to wait until they become it. You sense pain, so you assume you must stay close enough to absorb it. You know what it is like to be misunderstood, so you overextend mercy to people who are not misunderstanding you. They are using you, and God has been trying to interrupt that pattern. Not because He wants you cold, because He wants you whole. Not because He wants you cruel, because He wants your oil preserved for your assignment. Even Jesus did not give the same access to every crowd. He healed many, taught many, fed many, but He did not entrust Himself to everyone. He withdrew. He prayed. He moved on. He allowed people to misunderstand Him. He did not chase every explanation. He did not let every demand control His timing. So why do you keep calling it love when you let people drain what God gave you to steward? Why do you keep calling it humility when you erase yourself to keep others comfortable? Why do you keep calling it patience when God has already shown you that the cycle is repeating? This is not condemnation. This is correction. Because your next level requires cleaner access, cleaner boundaries, cleaner attention, cleaner obedience, cleaner interpretation. You cannot keep carrying a prophetic sensitivity while letting every emotionally chaotic person plug into your spirit. You cannot keep asking for clarity while surrounding yourself with voices that benefit from your confusion. You cannot keep asking God for restoration while staying loyal to environments that constantly scatter your focus. This is where the mental fog comes from for many of you. Not just from tiredness, from access. Too many people have had access to your attention. Too many opinions have had access to your decision-making. Too many old wounds have had access to your interpretation. Too many draining environments have had access to your nervous system. Too many distractions have had access to your mornings and your nights. And then you wonder why your spirit feels muffled. God is not far. Your attention has been fragmented. Your inner room has been crowded. And the Father is calling you back into stillness so He can speak without competing with everything you refuse to remove. This is why silence has felt both attractive and terrifying. Attractive because your spirit knows God is there. Terrifying because in silence you cannot keep pretending. In silence, the truth rises. In silence, the instruction returns. In silence, the thing you keep avoiding begins to speak again. In silence, you remember what peace felt like before you settled. In silence, you feel how tired you really are. In silence, the old agreement begins to lose its excuses. And because silence exposes, the enemy makes you avoid it. He keeps you scrolling, keeps you listening to noise, keeps you answering everyone, keeps you consuming, keeps you busy, keeps you reacting, keeps you emotionally occupied. Because he knows that a quiet chosen one becomes dangerous. A quiet chosen one can hear. A quiet chosen one can discern. A quiet chosen one can receive strategy. A quiet chosen one can stop confusing impulse with instruction. A quiet chosen one can recognize when the enemy is using urgency to counterfeit God's timing. This is why the next level of your life will require sacred quiet. Not isolation born from bitterness, quiet born from alignment. Not loneliness as punishment, separation as protection. Not silence because you have nothing to say. Silence because you are no longer willing to waste holy words in rooms assigned to misunderstand them. There is a silence God is calling you into, and it will not make you weaker. It will make you accurate. Accuracy is what the enemy fears. Not just your passion, not just your tears, not just your desire to be better. Accuracy, because when you become accurate, you stop swinging at every shadow. You stop wasting energy on battles that were never assigned. You stop over-explaining to people who already decided not to hear. You stop planting seeds in soil God never told you to water. You stop calling every emotional emergency your responsibility. You stop letting distraction choose your direction. And once your energy stops leaking, clarity rises. This is why the next part of your deliverance is not only spiritual emotion. It is focus. It is mental clarity. It is the restoration of the inner signal that tells you where to stand, when to speak, when to leave, when to wait, when to move, and when to be still. Remember the restoration tool named earlier? The Genius Song. Hold that name quietly in your awareness, because after this revelation, you can see why clarity is not a luxury for a chosen one. It is protection. When your focus is scattered, your timing becomes vulnerable. When your mind is clouded, your discernment becomes easier to challenge. When the signal within you is buried, you start asking strangers to confirm what God already placed in your spirit. That is why this conversation matters. Not because a tool replaces God, never, but because when the inner noise begins to quiet, you can respond to God with more steadiness. You can notice what you used to miss. You can stop living as if confusion is your permanent state. We will return to that later. For now, stay inside the deeper truth. God is not only warning you about outside traps, He is restoring the inside instrument that recognizes them. This is the part that changes everything, because the enemy's strategy against you has been built around interference. Interference with your sleep, interference with your focus, interference with your peace, interference with your memory, interference with your confidence, interference with your ability to trust the inner witness. Have you noticed how often you forget the instruction after receiving it? You hear something in prayer. It feels clear. It brings peace. Then the day begins. Messages come in. Tasks pile up. Someone's energy enters your space. A fear returns. A memory gets triggered. And by evening, the clear thing feels far away. Not gone, just buried. That is interference. Have you noticed how you can be strong for everyone else, but when it is time to choose for yourself, your mind becomes foggy? That is interference. Have you noticed how you can discern for other people, but second-guess everything when the instruction affects your own comfort? That is interference. Have you noticed how the old pattern becomes loudest right when you are closest to leaving it? That is interference. And today, God is giving language to the interference so it can no longer hide behind your personality. You are not just indecisive. You have been overloaded. You are not just inconsistent. You have been pulled between revelation and fear. You are not just tired. You have been carrying battles that were never assigned to you. You are not just too sensitive. You are sensing interference that others have normalized. You are not broken. You are being cleared. And clearing can feel uncomfortable because the fog has been there so long that clarity feels almost too bright at first. When truth returns, it may feel sharp. When boundaries return, they may feel cruel. When focus returns, distractions may feel louder for a moment because they know they are losing access. When peace returns, chaos may try one last time to convince you that quiet means something is wrong. But do not be deceived. Quiet is not emptiness. Quiet is space for God. Focus is not selfishness. Focus is stewardship. Boundaries are not rejection. Boundaries are obedience to the measure God assigned you. Rest is not laziness. Rest is trust that you are not the savior of every situation. Clarity is not arrogance. Clarity is refusing to keep bowing to confusion after God has spoken. That is what He is restoring. And this is where the biblical pattern becomes even clearer. Before God moves someone into public purpose, He often deals with private noise. Moses had to be removed from Egypt before he could return with authority. The noise of the palace had to be broken. The identity confusion had to be confronted. The wilderness looked like delay, but it was calibration. David had to learn worship in hidden fields before he could face Goliath in public. The silence of the field trained his ear before the noise of battle tested his courage. Elijah had to be fed and rested before he could hear the still small voice. His exhaustion was real, but it was not the end of his assignment. Samuel had to learn how to answer when the voice called. The call came before complete maturity, but response had to be trained. Esther had to recognize timing before she approached the king. Her position was not coincidence. Her placement carried assignment. Do you see it now? Placement is language. Delay is not always denial. Silence is not always absence. Exhaustion is not always failure. Hiddenness is not always rejection. Interruption is not always inconvenience. Sometimes the thing that looked like a setback was the place where God was refining your ability to hear. And that is exactly what has been happening to you. The last season refined your hearing, not because it was easy, because it was noisy. You learned what peace feels like by living without it. You learned what false connection feels like by surviving its drain. You learned what manipulation feels like by being trapped in its web. You learned what delayed obedience costs by circling the same mountain. You learned what your body does when your spirit senses danger. You learned what happens when you ignore the first warning. You learned what happens when you over-explain to people committed to misunderstanding. You learned what happens when you choose guilt over alignment. None of it was wasted, but it must not be repeated. That is the difference. God can redeem a lesson, but He does not want you to keep enrolling in the same pain when wisdom has already been given. You are not required to suffer again to prove you learned. You are allowed to move differently now. You are allowed to trust the first check in your spirit. You are allowed to leave without waiting for the situation to become visibly destructive. You are allowed to say no before resentment grows. You are allowed to rest before collapse forces you. You are allowed to stop carrying people God did not assign you to save. You are allowed to protect the signal, because the signal is sacred. Your discernment is not a toy. Your attention is not cheap. Your peace is not disposable. Your timing is not casual. Your obedience is not small. And the reason this message came in time is because God is teaching you to treat these things with holy seriousness, not fear. Seriousness. A chosen one who treats their peace casually will keep being drained by people who recognize its value before they do. A chosen one who treats their attention casually will keep being led by whatever is loudest. A chosen one who treats their timing casually will keep arriving late to what required a prepared spirit. A chosen one who treats their discernment casually will keep asking why God did not warn them when the warning had already been felt. This is the correction. Honor what God uses to guide you. Honor the check in your spirit. Honor the repeated sign. Honor the peace that leaves. Honor the peace that returns. Honor the dream that carries weight. Honor the discomfort that keeps repeating. Honor the silence that invites you deeper. Honor the message that meets you at the exact moment you were about to choose. Because dishonoring the small signals can create big consequences, and honoring the small signals can create a new future. One small yes can redirect a bloodline. One small no can break a chain. One quiet act of obedience can close a door the enemy expected to use for years. One moment of attention can save you from months of confusion. One decision to trust God's timing can move you out of a cycle that has exhausted your family for generations. Do not despise the small moment. God often hides massive turns inside quiet choices. The world looks for dramatic signs. Heaven often looks for surrendered attention. The world celebrates big moves. God often begins with a small correction. The world says, prove it. God says, trust me with the next step. And that next step may be simple. Stop answering that person at the same speed. Rest before you crash. Write the instruction down. Pray before you respond. Stop entering the room that drains your spirit. Stop feeding the thought that weakens your faith. Stop pretending the closed door is still open. Stop seeking confirmation from people who benefit from your confusion. Sit in silence long enough for God's voice to become louder than your fear. Simple does not mean small. Simple obedience can carry spiritual weight. Naaman almost missed his healing because the instructions seemed too simple. Dip in the river. Not dramatic enough. Not impressive enough. Not complicated enough. But the miracle was hidden in obedience to the simple instruction. How many times have you almost missed God because the instruction did not feel grand enough for your pain? You wanted thunder. God gave peace. You wanted a dramatic sign. God gave a quiet check. You wanted a long explanation. God gave a simple no. You wanted a full map. God gave one step. You wanted the whole future. God gave today's obedience. And because it seemed simple, you almost dismissed it. Not this time. This time, you will honor the simple instruction. This time, you will not demand drama before you obey. This time, you will not let the size of your pain make you despise the simplicity of God's answer. Sometimes the door out is not complex. It is just uncomfortable. Sometimes clarity is not hidden. It is just inconvenient. Sometimes God's voice is not unclear. It is just asking for something your old self does not want to release. That is the truth beneath the fog. The fog is not always lack of information. Sometimes the fog is emotional resistance. Sometimes the fog is grief because obedience means admitting something is over. Sometimes the fog is loyalty to an old identity. Sometimes the fog is fear of becoming someone your current circle cannot control. Sometimes the fog is the ache of knowing that once you obey, you cannot keep pretending. And that is why God is being gentle and firm at the same time. Gentle because He knows your wound. Firm because He knows your assignment. Gentle because He saw what shaped your fear. Firm because He will not let fear become your God. Gentle because He knows you are tired. Firm because He knows delay is not rest. Gentle because He loves you. Firm because love tells the truth. So receive the truth. You are not waiting for more signs. You are being called to clear the noise around the signs already given. You are not abandoned. You are being trained to recognize the voice in a deeper way. You are not behind. You are being reached before the next step hardens into another cycle. You are not broken. You are being restored to the clarity you were designed to carry. And once this clarity returns, many things will make sense. You will understand why that person suddenly felt heavy. You will understand why that door did not open. You will understand why restlessness rose when you tried to settle. You will understand why God let you feel uncomfortable in places that once felt familiar. You will understand why your spirit kept saying no when your mouth kept trying to say yes. You will understand why the same message chased you through dreams, numbers, conversations, delays, and interruptions. You will understand that God was not trying to confuse you. He was trying to cut through what confusion had built. And when that happens, you will not need to beg for signs the same way. You will become more accurate, more steady, more surrendered, more awake. You will still ask God. You will still test the Spirit. You will still pray, but you will not ask from panic. You will ask from relationship. You will not ask because you refuse to trust the first answer. You will ask because you want to move in alignment. There is a difference, and that difference is maturity. Spiritual maturity is not pretending you never feel fear. It is refusing to let fear govern you. Spiritual maturity is not knowing every detail. It is obeying the next clear thing. Spiritual maturity is not being untouched by wounds. It is no longer allowing wounds to interpret God's voice. Spiritual maturity is not having no questions. It is bringing the questions into surrender instead of using them as an excuse to delay. That maturity is rising in you now. That is why this message feels different. It is not just comforting you. It is calling you up. It is not just telling you that you are chosen. It is teaching you how a chosen one must listen. And here is where it goes even deeper. The noise inside you did not become loud by accident. It formed around the places where the enemy knew your assignment would require clarity. If your assignment requires you to speak, he attacks your confidence. If your assignment requires you to discern, he attacks your trust in your perception. If your assignment requires you to move, he attacks your sense of timing. If your assignment requires you to lead, he attacks your identity. If your assignment requires you to create, he attacks your focus. If your assignment requires you to love wisely, he attacks your boundaries. If your assignment requires you to break cycles, he attacks you with guilt from the people still comfortable inside those cycles. So when you see the area where the noise is loudest, pay attention. It often points to the area where your assignment is most dangerous to darkness. Your confusion is not random. Your fog is not random. Your exhaustion is not random. Your repeated delay is not random. The attack often gathers around the gate you are called to walk through. And that is why God is not merely soothing you. He is strengthening the gate. He is restoring the place where the enemy kept entering. He is teaching you to guard your attention, guard your peace, guard your sleep, guard your mornings, guard your words, guard your yes, guard your no, guard the inner witness, guard the signal, because what you do not guard gets negotiated by noise. And what gets negotiated by noise eventually becomes delayed. This is where some of you must repent quietly, not with shame, with honesty. Repentance simply means turning. Turning from agreement with confusion. Turning from worshipping other people's opinions. Turning from calling fear wisdom. Turning from treating your peace like a small thing. Turning from letting your wounds speak louder than God. Turning from asking for signs while ignoring the assignment of the signs already given. You can turn now, right where you are. You do not need a stage. You do not need perfect words. You do not need to punish yourself. Just turn. Father, I turn from the noise. Father, I turn from delay. Father, I turn from calling your warning anxiety. Father, I turn from calling your timing coincidence. Father, I turn from asking for more signs while resisting the ones you already gave. Let that be the beginning, because once you turn, heaven can begin strengthening your next step. Not because you earned love, you already have love, but because alignment allows what love prepared to flow without the same resistance. This is what you are stepping into, a season where signs become instruction, where discomfort becomes discernment, where silence becomes strategy, where peace becomes direction, where clarity becomes protection, where obedience becomes acceleration. But before acceleration, there must be honesty. And the honest truth is this: you already know more than you have admitted. You already sensed more than you said. You already felt the warning before the evidence came. You already noticed the pattern before anyone confirmed it. You already heard the instruction before this message named it. This message is not introducing something foreign. It is awakening something buried. It is giving language to what your spirit has been carrying. That is why it had to find you in time. Because if language comes too late, pain may have to teach what mercy tried to explain. But God is letting mercy explain it now. He is saying, look again, listen again, interpret again. Do not move from fog. Do not answer from guilt. Do not choose from loneliness. Do not return from panic. Do not agree from exhaustion. Do not delay from fear. Pause it. Breathe. Listen. Let your spirit come forward. Let the noise fall back. Let God's timing be honored. This is not coincidence. This is calibration. And in the next part, the hidden blocker will be exposed fully. You will see why the very thing you thought was protecting you has been delaying you. You will see why fear has been wearing the mask of caution. You will see why your old self kept asking for more signs instead of obeying the ones already given. You will see why God had to interrupt you before the next door opened. Stay with this, because what comes next is the turning point. The signs woke you, the reframe steadied you. The truth beneath the noise is now rising, and once the hidden blocker is named, it will lose the power to keep hiding inside your delay. Now listen closely. This is the turning point. The hidden blocker was never only confusion. It was not only tiredness. It was not only delay. It was not only the enemy throwing distractions around your life. The hidden blocker was the part of you that learned to distrust the voice of God, because trusting it would require you to become someone your old life could not control. That is the truth. You kept asking for more signs because the signs were not the real problem. The real problem was that the signs were asking for a version of you that could no longer hide, a version of you that could no longer keep everyone comfortable, a version of you that could no longer call exhaustion loyalty, a version of you that could no longer keep choosing familiar pain because unfamiliar obedience felt too risky, a version of you that could no longer explain away the inner warning just to avoid changing your life. This is why you almost missed it. Not because God failed to speak, because part of you understood exactly what obedience would cost. You knew that if the sign was real, then the relationship had to be viewed differently. You knew that if the warning was real, then the door could no longer be forced open. You knew that if the peace leaving was real, then you could not keep pretending the room was safe. You knew that if God was truly interrupting you, then you could not keep living as if delay was harmless. And that scared you, not because you do not love God, but because obedience often asks for a death before it reveals the resurrection. It asks for the death of an old identity, the death of a false attachment, the death of your need to be understood, the death of people-pleasing, the death of the version of you that survives by staying small, the death of the belief that being chosen means being comfortable. And this is where the enemy placed pressure on your wound. He did not say, "Reject God." That would have been too obvious. He said, "Wait." He said, "Maybe later." He said, "You are not ready." He said, "What if you are wrong?" He said, "What if they leave?" He said, "What if you lose everything?" He said, "What if this is only in your head?" He said, "What if you embarrass yourself by trusting a sign that nobody else can verify?" And because your wound already feared abandonment, you listened. Because your old disappointment already feared hope, you listened. Because your body was already tired, you listened. Because your mind was already foggy, you listened. That is how delay became familiar. It did not arrive as rebellion. It arrived as self-protection. But chosen one, hear this with tenderness and strength. Not every form of self-protection is from God. Some walls protect your wound while imprisoning your assignment. Some caution protects your comfort while delaying your calling. Some silence protects your image while suffocating your obedience. Some waiting protects your fear while keeping your promise outside the door. And God is exposing that today. Not to shame you, to free you, because the very thing you call protection has become the thing delaying your next season. The fear that said, "Do not move yet," was not always wisdom. The exhaustion that said, "You cannot handle this," was not always truth. The guilt that said, "You owe them access," was not always love. The confusion that said, "Ask for another sign," was not always humility. Sometimes it was the old self begging to stay alive. And that old self has been making decisions for too long. The old self that over-explains. The old self that waits to be chosen by people God never assigned to validate you. The old self that ignores peace leaving because loneliness feels louder. The old self that calls every closed door rejection. The old self that thinks obedience must feel safe before it can be holy. The old self that keeps bowing to the question, "What will happen to me if I trust God fully?" But today, that old self is being confronted, not by anger, by truth. You cannot carry the next season with an interpretation system built by wounds. You cannot interpret divine timing through the lens of abandonment. You cannot interpret God's warning through the lens of anxiety. You cannot interpret separation through the lens of rejection. You cannot interpret silence through the lens of punishment. You cannot interpret delay through the lens of worthlessness. Because if wounds interpret everything, even mercy will look like harm. Even protection will look like loss. Even correction will look like attack. Even divine interruption will look like coincidence. That is why God had to reach you this way. This message is not only a warning, it is a reset of interpretation. It is God saying, "Look again. The thing you thought was rejection was protection. The silence you thought was absence was training. The discomfort you thought was punishment was alignment. The delay you thought was failure was preparation. The strange timing you thought was coincidence was intervention. And the fog you thought was your identity was interference. You are not the fog. You are not the confusion. You are not the delay. You are not the wound. You are not the version of yourself that hesitated because pain taught you to mistrust peace. You are still the one God called. You are still the one heaven recognizes. You are still the one whose spirit knows the sound of truth. You are still the one who can be restored. And this is where the shift happens. Because once you stop identifying with the noise starts losing authority. Once you say, "This fear is not my prophet," fear loses its throne. Once you say, "This wound is not my interpreter," the wound loses its right to edit God's voice. Once you say, "This delay is not my identity," the cycle loses its crown. Once you say, "This was not coincidence," heaven begins to teach you timing again. Say it within yourself. This was not coincidence. The message was not coincidence. The timing was not coincidence. The warning was not coincidence. The heaviness was not coincidence. The peace leaving was not coincidence. The repeated sign was not coincidence. God was reaching me, and I will stop calling mercy random. Let that settle, because there is power in agreeing with truth. You do not have to understand every detail to agree with truth. You do not have to know every step to agree with truth. You do not have to feel fearless to agree with truth. You only have to stop defending the lie. And the lie was this: that you were too late, that you had missed too much, that you had become too foggy to hear God clearly again, that you were too damaged to trust your discernment, that the signs were meaningless, that the delay was permanent, that your old pattern was stronger than your divine assignment. That lie ends here. God made sure you found this in time, because you are not outside the reach of mercy. You are not too far gone for clarity. You are not too delayed for redirection. You are not too exhausted for restoration. But you must cooperate with the restoration. You must stop giving your attention to everything that scatters your spirit. You must stop letting guilt open doors God closed. You must stop letting fear postpone what peace confirmed. You must stop treating your inner signal as if it is disposable. Your clarity matters. Your focus matters. Your discernment matters. Your timing matters. Because what God is bringing into your life cannot be carried by a scattered version of you. The door ahead requires steadiness. The instruction ahead requires attention. The separation ahead requires courage. The blessing ahead requires capacity. The assignment ahead requires a mind that is not constantly dragged back into old noise. This is why God is not only comforting you, He is preparing your inner environment. He is cleaning the room before the promise enters. He is clearing the signal before the next instruction comes. He is restoring the part of you that must be able to hear quickly and obey without being pulled into 10 directions. Now receive this. You were not late because God forgot you. You were late because every time heaven tried to reach you, fear taught you to call the interruption coincidence. But mercy has found you again. And this time, you are not ignoring it. This time, you are not scrolling past it. This time, you are not laughing it off. This time, you are not saying, maybe this is for someone else. This time, you are standing still long enough to say, Father, I hear you. And that matters, because hearing is the doorway. Once hearing returns, alignment can return. Once alignment returns, peace can return. Once peace returns, direction can return. Once direction returns, obedience can return. Once obedience returns, movement can return. And once movement returns, the cycle that kept surviving on your delay begins to break. This is the closure of the first revelation. You did not find this by chance. God interrupted you because timing matters. The signs were not random. They were mercy repeating itself. The noise was not your identity. It was interference around your clarity. The delay was not your destiny. It was a pattern being exposed. The warning was not meant to terrify you. It was meant to recover your authority before the next door opened. Now we must talk about restoration, because revelation without restoration can leave a person aware but still exhausted. And God does not only want you aware, He wants you strengthened. He does not only want you to recognize the fog, He wants the fog to lift. He does not only want you to identify the noise, He wants your signal restored. This is why I planted the seed earlier, and this is why it belongs here. After the truth has been named, there is a reason so many chosen ones feel like they used to be sharper, clearer, more alive inside, more intuitive, more creative, more spiritually sensitive in a way that felt effortless. As children, many of you could learn quickly. You sensed shifts in rooms. You noticed details adults missed. You saw patterns before others had language for them. You had vivid imagination, sudden ideas, strange inner knowing, and moments where life felt almost lit from within. Then the world piled noise over the signal. Pressure, stress, rejection, survival, constant screens, constant urgency, constant comparaison, systems that rewarded memorizing over wonder, environments that told you to become practical, quiet, predictable, and small. And little by little, the signal did not disappear. It got buried. This is where science gives language to something your spirit has been feeling. There is a brainwave state called gamma, often connected with heightened focus, fast insight, creativity, learning, and those sudden moments where everything seems to connect. Some researchers and institutions, including places like MIT, Princeton, and Harvard, have explored how brain activity relates to focus, perception, and high-performance states. And Dr. Robert Lake, a neuroscientist with 34 years of work behind him, built a simple audio around brain entrainment to help support that gamma reactivation process. That audio is called the Genius Song. It is not a replacement for prayer. It is not a replacement for God. It is not a magic object. It is a 7-minute digital audio track designed to help your mind move out of scattered noise and back toward the kind of signal your spirit can work with more clearly. And I need you to understand why this matters in the context of this message. For a chosen one, clarity is not a luxury. Clarity is protection. When your mind is scattered, you hesitate around instructions that need obedience. When your focus is weak, distractions become spiritual traps. When the inner signal is buried, you start asking everyone around you to confirm what God already whispered within you. When mental fog becomes normal, delay becomes easier to justify. So this is not about chasing novelty. It is about stewarding your ability to hear, notice, discern, and respond. Among the 18,366 people who have already used this audio, the most important signal is not only the number, it is that the refund rate has stayed under 4%, which means the vast majority continued with it beyond the guarantee period. That matters because people do not keep using something that feels meaningless to them, and the stories around it follow a pattern that many chosen ones will recognize. One woman in her late 30s had tried spiritual practices, retreats, and routines, but still felt like real connection stayed just beyond reach. After using the audio consistently for a couple of weeks, the word she used for the shift was synchronicities. Not chaos, not hype, just a sense that the world was becoming readable again. Another man had been struggling with interviews after losing work. His skills were still there, but his words felt trapped behind fog. After a short period of use, he described the change not as a new resume, but as his mind coming back online with steadiness. That is the kind of restoration this message points toward. Not becoming someone else. Returning to the signal that pressure buried. Here is how simple it is. You use headphones. You give it 7 quiet minutes. You let the audio play. No complicated meditation ritual. No hours of effort. No special equipment. No need to force mystical emotion. Just a daily moment where your inner world is allowed to stop scattering and begin recentering. And for people who have tried so many things, that simplicity matters. Because many of you do not need another heavy program that makes you feel guilty when you cannot keep up. You need something small enough to actually do, but intentional enough to become part of your restoration. Think about what people often spend trying to feel clear again. A meditation app may cost around $15 each month. A single therapy session can be around $150. A weekend retreat can run hundreds, sometimes $400 to $800 before travel. Online growth courses can cost $100 or $200 and still leave you overloaded with information. Professional biofeedback sessions can go even higher, often around $300 per appointment. And none of those options are built specifically around this kind of gamma support in a simple 7-minute audio. Dr. Lake originally set the audio at $49. But for the people coming through this message, the access placed below is $39 one time. Not a subscription, not something shipped to your house. It is delivered digitally, directly through email, so there is no shipping fee and no waiting for a package. And with it, there are 4 bonuses included. Genius Child, valued at $19, created as a short audio for children and younger minds, especially for parents who care about protecting focus early. A classic book, valued at $20, connected to the deeper roots of practical abundance principles many people have never actually read for themselves. A guided visualization, valued at $29, designed to walk your mind through key areas of life instead of leaving you to force the process alone. And a 5-habit infographic, valued at $12, giving you a simple daily reference for keeping the restored signal supported through ordinary habits. Together, the bonuses add up to $80 in value, included with the $39 access. And there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you use it and decide it is not for you, you can ask for a full refund. No complicated return process. It is digital. And even if you refund, you keep the bonuses. That is important, because this should not feel like pressure. It should feel like a door with the risk removed. The only real question is whether you will keep living as if confusion is normal when a small act of restoration has been placed within reach. Now hear this carefully. There are imitations. There are pages that use similar language. There are random uploads, fake versions, copied names, ordinary sounds dressed up as the real thing. Do not search for it casually on Amazon, YouTube, Spotify, or random websites. If your spirit feels led, use only the access in the description and pinned comment, because that is where the original audio, the complete bonuses, and the guarantee are connected together. This is not fear. This is protection. A chosen one must learn to stop receiving from counterfeit sources just because they look convenient. That lesson applies spiritually, emotionally, and even practically. So pause here. Place one hand over your chest if you can. Take one slow breath. Do not ask yourself, is this only about $39? That is too small a question. Ask yourself this: do I believe my clarity is worth protecting? Do I believe God gave me a signal that pressure tried to bury? Do I believe this message reached me in time because my next season requires a steadier version of me? If the answer inside you is yes, the path is already placed in the description and pinned comment. Move quietly. Move prayerfully. Do not turn this into a public debate inside your mind. The people who are meant to recognize this will recognize it. And if you are not ready, stay with the message. No force, no panic, no shame. But do not let delay pretend to be wisdom if your spirit already knows. Because this entire message has been about one thing: God reaching you in time. And sometimes He reaches you with warning. Sometimes with confirmation. Sometimes with correction. Sometimes with a tool that helps restore what pressure buried. But the deeper invitation is the same. Return to clarity. Return to attention. Return to obedience. Return to the God-given signal that has been under attack for too long. Now we move from decision into sealing. Because once a message like this has been heard, it cannot simply float in the mind. It must be anchored. It must be spoken over your life. It must be agreed with in your spirit. It must be sealed, so the old noise cannot come back tomorrow and rename everything coincidence again. The next part is not just a closing. It is a covenant, a sacred seal, a declaration that you are no longer available to confusion, delayed obedience, counterfeit peace, or the lie that God has not been speaking. Stay here, because now we pray this into the ground of your life. Now stay here. Do not rush out of this moment. This is where the message becomes sealed, not just heard, not just understood, not just felt for a few minutes and then forgotten when the noise returns. Sealed, because if a divine interruption is not sealed in your spirit, the old noise will try to rename it tomorrow. It will say, maybe that message was not for you. It will say, maybe you were just emotional. It will say, maybe nothing is really changing. It will say, maybe delay is safer. It will say, Maybe you should go back to what you already know, but not this time. This time, the truth will not float away. This time, the warning will not be buried. This time, the mercy will not be dismissed. This time, you will not call God coincidence after he made himself this clear. So take a slow breath. Let your body come into agreement with your spirit. Let your shoulders release what they have been carrying. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands open. You do not have to fight this moment. You only have to receive it. The Father did not bring you here to leave you in fear. He brought you here to restore order. He brought you here to restore hearing. He brought you here to restore clarity. He brought you here to restore timing. He brought you here to restore the part of you that stopped trusting the signal because pain taught you to doubt yourself. That version of you is being comforted now. That version of you is being corrected now. That version of you is being called forward now. And before we pray, I need you to understand what is being sealed. You are not sealing panic. You are sealing peace. You are not sealing fear. You are sealing discernment. You are not sealing pressure. You are sealing obedience. You are not sealing a superstition. You are sealing the truth that God knew exactly where to find you, exactly when to interrupt you, exactly how to reach the part of you that was almost ready to call the message coincidence again. God found you in time. Let that sentence land. God found you in time, not too late, not after everything was ruined, not after mercy ran out, not after the door was gone. In time to listen, in time to turn, in time to choose differently, in time to stop giving fear the final word, in time to protect your clarity, in time to stop calling your warning anxiety, in time to stop letting delay wear the mask of wisdom, in time to stop walking back into what God already made heavy in your spirit, in time to honor the peace that left, in time to honor the peace that returned, in time to become awake again. So place your hand over your heart if you can. If you cannot, simply become still. This is not about a performance. This is about agreement. And agreement matters, because what you agree with gains access to your attention, and what gains access to your attention can influence your direction. So now, with humility and authority, begin to agree with truth. Repeat this in your spirit. Father, I receive this message. I receive it without fear. I receive it without shame. I receive it without running away. I acknowledge that you have been speaking. I acknowledge that you have been reaching. I acknowledge that you have been warning. I acknowledge that you have been protecting. I acknowledge that I have called some things coincidence because I was afraid to admit they were divine. I acknowledge that I have delayed some steps because fear sounded safer than obedience. I acknowledge that I have ignored peace, leaving because I did not want to disappoint people. I acknowledge that I have asked for more signs when you had already made the instruction clear. And today, I turn. I turn from confusion. I turn from delay. I turn from false peace. I turn from counterfeit comfort. I turn from people-pleasing. I turn from spiritual numbness. I turn from fear dressed as caution. I turn from the old wound that tried to interpret your voice for me. Father, restore my hearing. Restore my clarity. Restore my discernment. Restore my attention. Restore my ability to recognize your timing. Restore the signal you placed in me before the world trained me to doubt it. I will not call your mercy random. I will not call your warning anxiety. I will not call your protection rejection. I will not call your delay abandonment. I will not call your correction punishment. I will not call your interruption coincidence. I receive the truth that you found me in time. I receive the truth that I am still reachable. I receive the truth that my clarity matters. I receive the truth that my obedience matters. I receive the truth that my peace is worth protecting. I receive the truth that my assignment is too important to keep living distracted. I receive the truth that I am not too late. I receive the truth that I am being recovered. Now take another slow breath. Let that prayer work deeper than your emotions. Some of you felt something shift when you said those words. Not because the words were magic, because agreement changed. You stopped agreeing with the lie that you are unreachable. You stopped agreeing with the lie that God has not been speaking. You stopped agreeing with the lie that delay is your identity. You stopped agreeing with the lie that confusion is permanent. That agreement is a doorway. And now we close the wrong door. Say this quietly. I close the door to confusion. I close the door to delayed obedience. I close the door to counterfeit peace. I close the door to emotional manipulation. I close the door to old cycles that survive through my fear. I close the door to relationships that drain my oil and call it love. I close the door to opportunities that cost my peace. I close the door to voices that benefit from my uncertainty. I close the door to the habit of asking everyone else before I ask God. I close the door to the version of me that needs proof from people before honoring divine timing. And now I open the door to clarity. I open the door to holy focus. I open the door to peace that cannot be bought by approval. I open the door to obedience that moves quietly and firmly. I open the door to restored discernment. I open the door to divine timing. I open the door to the next instruction. I open the door to the version of me that listens when God speaks the first time. I open the door to the assignment that was waiting for my attention to return. Chosen one, let this be settled. You do not need to beg God to prove He reached you. He already did. You do not need to punish yourself for the signs you missed. You only need to honor the one in front of you now. You do not need to understand every detail of what comes next. You only need to become faithful with the next clear step, because heaven often moves through the next step, not the whole map. The next step, the next no, the next yes, the next silence, the next release, the next boundary, the next prayer, the next act of trust, the next refusal to betray your peace, the next moment where you stop and say, Father, what are you showing me? That is how cycles break. Not always through one dramatic announcement, sometimes through one small obedience repeated until the old pattern loses access. You are not required to become fearless overnight. You are required to stop letting fear lead. You are not required to explain yourself to everyone. You are required to remain honest with God. You are not required to know how every door will open. You are required to stop forcing the doors that remove your peace. You are not required to carry everyone. You are required to steward what God placed in your hands. This is your sacred correction. This is your holy reset. And I declare over you now, your discernment is returning. Your peace is returning. Your focus is returning. Your attention is returning. Your courage is returning. Your ability to hear God beneath the noise is returning. Your sensitivity is no longer being cursed as weakness. It is being restored as protection. Your difference is no longer being hidden in shame. It is being refined as evidence of assignment. Your delay is no longer being treated as destiny. It is being exposed as a cycle God is breaking. Your exhaustion is no longer being mistaken for failure. It is being answered with restoration. Your old agreement with fear is losing power. Your old loyalty to confusion is breaking. Your old need to explain what God already showed you is falling away. The spirit of almost is being broken. Almost obeying, almost leaving, almost trusting, almost resting, almost believing, almost moving, almost choosing clarity. That almost loses its throne today. You will not live in almost. You will not die at the edge of your yes. You will not keep circling the door God already opened. You will not keep holding the chain God already unlocked. You will not keep asking for permission from people who were never assigned to bless your obedience. You will move with peace. You will move with wisdom. You will move with prayer. You will move with discernment. But you will move, because the warning was mercy, and mercy must be honored. Now listen carefully to what happens after a message like this. The noise may test you. The old pattern may try to return. Someone may reach out. A fear may rise. A distraction may appear. A memory may try to pull you back. A situation may ask you to betray your peace again. Do not be shocked. Testing does not mean the message failed. Testing reveals whether the message was sealed. So when the old thing tries to return, do not panic. Pause it. Breathe. Ask, what did God already show me? Ask, where did peace leave? Ask, where did peace return? Ask, am I obeying from clarity or reacting from fear? Ask, is this alignment or old attachment? Ask, is this God or just the familiar asking for access again? That pause will protect you. The pause is where the old cycle loses momentum. The pause is where discernment speaks. The pause is where heaven can remind you. The pause is where your new self makes a different choice. Protect the pause. Protect your mornings. Protect your nights. Protect what enters your ears. Protect what enters your eyes. Protect the first thoughts you feed. Protect your silence. Protect your peace after prayer. Protect the clarity you receive. Do not let every person have immediate access to a revelation God gave you in private. Some things must be carried quietly before they are spoken. Some instructions must be obeyed before they are explained. Some separations must be completed before they are announced. Some doors must be closed without a long speech. Some clarity must be protected from people who would only argue you back into confusion. You are allowed to move quietly. You are allowed to obey without performing. You are allowed to be misunderstood while remaining aligned. You are allowed to let God defend what He instructed. This is part of maturity. A chosen one does not need applause to obey. A chosen one does not need a crowd to recognize divine timing. A chosen one does not need everyone's agreement before honoring peace. A chosen one does not reduce heaven's interruption to coincidence just because the world calls it random. You have been found in time. Now live like it. Today, do one thing differently. One thing. Write down the sign you have been ignoring. Write down the instruction that keeps returning. Write down the place where peace leaves. Write down the door you keep trying to force. Write down the name that keeps disturbing your spirit. Write down the repeated pattern. Bring it before God honestly. Do not dramatize it. Do not minimize it. Just tell the truth. Father, this is what I have been feeling. Father, this is what I have been avoiding. Father, this is where I need clarity. Father, this is where I need courage. Father, this is where I need to obey. Truth spoken before God becomes ground where healing can begin. And if this message reached you deeply, seal it with a public agreement in the comments. Write, it reached me in time, not for performance, for agreement. Let your own eyes see the words. Let your spirit remember them. Let the enemy know that the message was not wasted. Write, it reached me in time. Or write, I will not call God coincidence. Or write, my clarity is returning. Choose the sentence that your spirit can stand on. And when you write it, do not write from hype. Write from covenant, because words matter. Your agreement matters. Your declaration matters. The comment is not just engagement. It is a marker, a line in the sand, a moment where you say, I heard, I received, and I will not go back to sleep. And if this message gave language to what you have been feeling, subscribe and stay connected to this stream of guidance. Not because you need another voice to replace God. Never. But because reminders matter in seasons where noise fights your attention. Sometimes one message can pull you back before the old cycle gets a foothold. Sometimes one word in the right hour can help you remember what God already said. Sometimes heaven uses repeated reminders to train a spirit that has spent years doubting itself. So stay connected if your spirit recognizes the flow here. And for those who know that clarity is the very area God is asking you to protect, the access to the Genius song remains in the description and pinned comment. Let that be quiet. Let it be prayerful. Let it be your decision with God, not a debate with fear. If you feel led to restore the signal that pressure buried, the path is there. And if not, carry the message, carry the correction, carry the prayer, carry the seal. But do not carry confusion anymore. Do not carry delay anymore. Do not carry the lie that you are too late anymore. Because God found you. He found you in the noise. He found you in the scrolling. He found you in the fog. He found you in the almost. He found you before the wrong yes. He found you before the old door pulled you back. He found you before the next cycle had permission to repeat. He found you before your peace was traded again. He found you in time. Now let this final declaration rise. I am not abandoned. I am not unreachable. I am not too late. I am not the confusion I felt. I am not the delay I survived. I am not the wound that tried to interpret God for me. I am not the fear that tried to stop me. I am chosen. I am awake. I am listening. I am returning to clarity. I am honoring divine timing. I am protecting my peace. I am refusing counterfeit comfort. I am closing old doors with holy courage. I am receiving the instruction God placed before me. I am no longer calling mercy random. I am no longer calling warning anxiety. I am no longer calling protection rejection. I am no longer calling interruption coincidence. God reached me in time, and I receive it. Now breathe. Let peace come, not the false peace of avoidance, the true peace of alignment, the peace that can stand even when the next step is serious, the peace that does not need everyone to understand, the peace that follows truth, the peace that guards the chosen one who has finally stopped running from the message. This peace belongs to you, not because life is suddenly easy, but because God is with you in the next step, and the next step is enough. When you leave this message, leave slowly. Do not rush back into noise. Do not immediately drown the moment in distraction. Give God a few quiet minutes. Ask Him what needs to be written down. Ask Him what needs to be released. Ask Him what needs to be protected. Ask Him what must not be called coincidence anymore. And then obey the next clear thing. Not everything. The next clear thing. That is how this seal becomes life. That is how the message moves from your ears into your steps. That is how the interruption becomes transformation. That is how divine timing becomes embodied. Chosen one, this was not coincidence. God made sure you found this in time. The warning was mercy. The timing was love. The interruption was protection. The message was confirmation. And the next step belongs to your obedience. Go in peace. Go in clarity. Go in holy attention. Go knowing that heaven did not miss you. Go knowing that the Father still knows how to reach you. Go knowing that your spirit is waking up. Go knowing that what was buried can be restored. Go knowing that the cycle can break here. Go knowing that you are not too late. You were found in time, and because you were